able to log on, but who want to be able to view this. So if you can hit guided on your screen, that would be helpful so we can get started. I have the real honor of introducing Norma Loeb tonight, who's going to lead our seminar. And a little bit, let me just tell you a little bit about, Norma. So Norma is the founder and executive director of the Lewy Bodies Dementia Resource Center. Norma's knowledge and experience with Lewy Bodies dementia began with the personal care of her mother, Lillian, who had the experience with the Lewy Bodies dementia for many years. Liv was an inspiration behind the founding of the Lewy Bodies Dementia Resource Center. Norma has been facilitating the only New York metro area Lewy Body dementia caregiving caregiver support group since 2008. She also leads a national group for the people living with Lewy bodies. Norma's worked as an executive assistant to the CFO of the New York Times Company for over 20 years. And while there, she served as a chairperson for the Work-Life Committee of the Times Women Affinity Group and initiated and ran their managerial experiences, initiated their elder care support group. Her experience working with top executives at the Times, as well as managerial experience as an executive director and co-founder of What Better Looks Like, a nonprofit organization which partners with communities to help individuals imagine, articulate, and create visions for a better world, has prepared her to direct this large project, which is very near and dear to her heart. I know we at Caring Kind often get a lot of questions regarding all dementias, but specifically Lewy bodies is a little bit different. And Norma's here to talk to us about Lewy bodies and answer some of your questions that you may have. I can tell that this is questions that are on people's minds because there's so many of you here. And so Caring Kind, we support all people, care partners, early stage people living with the disease itself. And we want to hear from you what you're interested in. This is certainly a topic that you are interested in. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Norma. But before I do, if you can mute yourself when you're not talking, that would be helpful. What we're going to do, and if this is okay with you, Norma, we'll put questions into chat. And we'll open it up for questions and answers towards the end. I'll monitor the chat. If there's something really pressing that we want answered that Norma hasn't gotten to yet, we'll be able to go back when Norma takes a break, and we'll be able to when Norma will be able to address your questions. If you are showing up as a telephone number, I ask that you kindly rename yourself so we can make sure that we count you as here. Thank you, Norma, for leading us tonight. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Michelle, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you for asking me to be here and for Caring Kind for having me. I've done a few of these in the past, and I love working together with Caring Kind and all your wonderful workshops. So I'm happy to be a part of that. And I see a lot of people have joined. Usually many people are late, but I'm sure others will come on. And so since you started on time, I will. So thank you to Caring Kind for having me, and thank you to all of you for being here. I am going to assume that many of you know very little about Lewy body dementia, because when I give presentations in other places, or just talk to people in general, let me say that. If I talk to people in general, most people have still never heard of it. And because you're all here, I'm assuming that you've heard of it, but don't know too much about it. So I am going to speak as if most people don't know much about it, because I know there are others here who are probably dealing with it as well. But I think it's important to hear all of the aspects of it. So as Michelle had just said, I started the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center 7 years ago, right after my mom had passed. She had it for 18 years, which is not the norm. at all. But I knew it from beginning when she couldn't do her checkbook. And then she lived with me for many, many years at the end. So I've been, as Michelle said, been leading the Only Support groups in the New York area for over 14 years and now have other groups. And I'll talk about the organization and how we can help anybody who needs help in addition to Caring Kind's help more towards the end. But in the meantime, what the most important thing I'd like people to know is that Lewy body dementia is not rare. Even if you start talking to people and they never heard of it, it's because they just never heard of it. Because it's the second most common form of progressive dementia after Alzheimer's disease, though it is different. And there are more people who have Lewy body dementia than are HIV positive. To give you an idea, there are more people who have Lewy body, also known as LBD, than have ALS, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, and frontal temporal combined. Yet it's still unknown. And so it's very often misdiagnosed as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or a psychiatric disorder. And I'm going to start talking about why it's important to be diagnosed correctly. And for those who don't know, I'm just going to ask if the background noises, if people can please put themselves on mute. Thank you so much. For those who don't know, many of you may know, it's the disease that Robin Williams had. But it's really important to know he never knew he had it because he also was misdiagnosed and they only found that out after autopsy 3 months later. So what I would like to focus on, and we can take questions at different times. I'll be happy to do that because I'll be speaking about a lot of different aspects of it. And it'll be time to take a little break from hearing after symptoms. So the first thing is, and I'll tell you the difference of why it's different than Alzheimer's as well. Though I'd like to say also, I do not have a medical background. So everything that I'm sharing here is what I've learned from top neurologists on my board of directors, geriatricians on the board, all the conferences I've attended, and thousands of people I've spoken to, in addition to the Mayo Clinic and National Institute of Health. So I just want to say all the information I'm giving you here is known across the board. So most people with Lewy body start off with cognitive issues. And just note that I'm not saying memory issues, because it's not memory issues at the very beginning generally, though it may appear that way. It's more problems with executive function is what they call that. And Vera, are you able to put yourself on mute, please?
Oh,
thank you. Okay, and executive function means this problem with problem solving and multitasking. So it's more the same way I said my mom had trouble with her checkbook. It's more trying to figure out things than necessarily issues with memory, as is the case with Alzheimer's. So when those cognitive problems start, that is one of the symptoms. Another very common symptom are Parkinsonisms. And when I say that, when I say Parkinson's symptoms, a majority of people with Lewy body have them. The average person, I was one of them, thinks that Parkinson's means you have a tremor in your hand. Many people with Lewy body don't even have that tremor. But other Parkinson's symptoms or signs are very slow movements, shuffling when you walk, stiffness in the arms and legs, and a jutting out of the chin when you're walking. So a combination of those cognitive issues and Parkinson's symptoms. What else? What's an early sign? A REM sleep disorder. And what that means is that when we are all sleeping and we're dreaming, part of our body actually paralyzes so that if you're running in your sleep, your legs aren't moving. If you're throwing a ball, you're not actually doing that in your sleep. And when you have this REM behavior disorder or REM sleep disorder, that does not happen to your body. And so the person with this thrashes in their sleep. And if they're sleeping with someone, they're definitely hitting that person, hitting a lamp, can fall out of the bed, and can have nightmares. That can be a very early sign 10 years before. Before I go further, I want to point out that not every single person with Lewy body has the same symptoms. They may come in different order. Some people get all of the symptoms, some get a few, some get many, and they all progress differently. So it doesn't mean that every single person has a REM sleep disorder, but it is common. Another very common sign, and one that distinguishes itself, is people with Lewy body get hallucinations. They have hallucinations. Many of them will have ones that don't scare them, of children and small animals. Very common to see that. Then other people will have very frightening hallucinations and delusions. And there's a little difference with that, because hallucinations mean you're seeing something that's not there. Other people have audio hallucinations. They're hearing things that are not there. The visual is more common. And there's also some people smell things that aren't there. And then delusions is more when you're making up a story about someone stole my money, etc. More common with Alzheimer's, but also happens with Lewy body as well. So in addition to those, a key, and to me, really important key in distinguishing this disease from other dementias, is that there are fluctuations. And what I mean by that is someone with Lewy body, when someone with Alzheimer's or other dementias may or may not, everybody has a good day, bad day. Someone with Lewy body can be having a regular conversation with you sometime, and at another point, just be speaking one sentence or two. On some days, may be able to answer just one question. And then a day or two later, it's as if a light switch went off, and they're speaking like there's no problem at all. So it's very hard to know when that is happening. It's very difficult for the person with the disease and very difficult for the people caring for them, because you don't know where they're going to be at any point. And in addition to those, there's a visual spatial component, meaning there's a problem with depth perception. So someone early on who's driving a car may hit a curb, or reaching for something in front of them, instead of reaching to the right, where this object is, they're reaching to the middle or to the left, because they can't distinguish that. In addition to that, I'm going to mention the autonomic system. For those who don't know what that is, I certainly didn't know what that was. It's anything in the body that happens automatically. And so your blood pressure and anything that's regulated. Many people have constipation early on. Now, many people have constipation and don't have Lewy body, but it's an early sign in conjunction with the others. The other things with the autonomic system, some people will feel hot, or will feel cold at different times, and that happens a lot. Or their blood pressure can drop suddenly as they're standing up. That's also a common part of the autonomic system that there's issues with. In addition to those, there definitely is depression and anxiety. And for those who had suffered with anxiety before, it's only worse with Lewy body. Anxiety and apathy, that too is very common. So I want to go back for a minute. Why is it so important to distinguish? I mean, you can hear it's a very different disease. Why is it so important to distinguish it from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's? There, unfortunately, at this moment, no cure for all three of those diseases. It's because people with Lewy body are extremely sensitive to medications, and the wrong ones can make them much worse. For instance, if someone is having really frightening hallucinations or becomes aggressive in a facility, in an ER, If you give them one of the older antipsychotics, and I'll just speak about medications, one particular medication, because since I'm not a physician, one of them, Haldol, it can make a person much, much worse. And so I'll tell you where to find information on the meds that shouldn't be given to Lewy body as I talk a little bit later. But that's why it's really important to distinguish it, because it can really make a huge difference. There are some other symptoms as well, but I think I gave you the major ones, and I know that's a lot. So before I go any further, I think it's a good time for anybody who may have a question at the moment, if you do, in case. And if not, let's see, anybody? Nobody right
I
now?
don't think so, not yet.
Okay, okay. So, okay. Why is it hard to diagnose? That's what people always want to know. Why is it so hard to diagnose? Well, there isn't any particular test right now specifically for Lewy body. So other scans are given, a CAT scan, a PET scan, and they will tell what you don't have and can see certain parts of the brain that may bring them to think that you may have Lewy body. There are some other tests being done now that are more accurate, but at this moment, there's not one that's 100% sure. There is a new skin test. I can talk about that a little bit more later too, but it's really, really important for anyone who goes to a doctor's appointment with any disease, actually, if you can write down every single thing that you notice, just have it ready. Even the things that you think are totally unimportant. I'll give you an example. My mother's nose was always running. She always had a tissue. It was a thing for 40 years, and then it stopped. That's another odd thing with Lewy body. Well, if you're in a support group with people with Lewy body, you'll find out that so many people have runny noses. It's not a well-known thing, but I'm mentioning it here just to add to your list of any symptoms that you notice. And a good doctor will always ask you many of the questions so that it can help with a correct diagnosis. And again, I think somebody had one question. Let's see.
Yes, they wanted the question regarding
Yeah.
you see it?
Well, it has to do with alpha-synuclein, and so I'm not going to go into all of those details since I'm not a technician, and but that's what will generally show. Usually a DAT scan, which is not available everywhere, but is available in many more places now, can really see where the alpha-synuclein is, which is in connection with Parkinson's. And then a doctor would want to know all the other symptoms that you're having. But in addition to those, a neuropsych test can also tell what part of the brain is being affected. Okay. Those are the basic Lewy body issues. And the difficult part is I've been leading support groups now for people with Lewy body for over 2 years. And I can tell you I've learned more from them in these 2 years than I have in the 25 years I'm now doing this, when my mother first told me she was having an issue. And in addition to all the symptoms I mentioned, what happens is apathy is a huge part for them. And what I mean by that is some days it will look like someone's being lazy because yesterday they did something that you wanted them to do or they wanted to do. And today they're not getting up. They don't have no interest. They're not doing it. But it's not because they're lazy. They just actually have no oomph, no interest. They just can't get themselves up to do that. And so it's really difficult for them because they don't know if they made a plan the day before, whether they'll be able to do it that next day. It's difficult for any family member who was trying to plan something. And then there's so many behavior issues because people get agitated, they get angry, they may be seeing something that's not there. And then It's how do you handle that? So before I go into how to handle it, I'm just checking if anyone else has a question. Somebody, let's see.
You have somebody here who was diagnosed 3 weeks ago by a punch
Okay, by
biopsy.
the skin
Mhm.
test. Okay. Yes, so we're finding that the skin biopsy test has been very effective. Dr. Galvin, who's on my board and is one of the world experts, has said he's been finding it very effective. For those who want to know about that, the company that's doing that is C, like Charlie, and Nancy, D. David, Life Sciences, cndlifesciences.com. They have all the information on that, and any doctor can order one of these skin tests, which can be done, and they take a small piece of skin from the neck, behind the knee, and the ankle. Nothing is 100%, but this has been helpful to many. But a lot of doctors don't know of it, so I just want you to know that too. And who should you see if there's a problem? Always see a neurologist, because most people are going to their GP, their internist first when this is happening, and understandably so, because you don't know what's happening. But in order to get a correct diagnosis, you generally need to see a neurologist. And much of the time, seeing a movement disorder neurologist would be best, if you can. And I know there's a long wait for many. I also want to say that for anyone over 75, seeing a geriatrician, who are the only physicians trained in the elder body, is who you should have as your primary, and it's really important. So I wanted to add that too. So the doctors who generally can diagnose this are neurologists, many geriatricians, and neuropsychiatrists, not generally neuropsychiatrists. Okay. I'll see what the next question was.
It says here that my
Yes, I'm seeing that.
Okay. Right.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm just going to answer the second one first, Pamela. When you say for if it's possible for someone to just have movement symptoms, if someone only has movement symptoms, then that generally would be Parkinson's or another movement disorder. I'm just talking about, again, I'm not an expert in that, Pamela. So however, the original criteria for Lewy body way back was that you would have cognitive issues and movement issues within the same year. Then that was changed. So if someone has movement issues and then finds that they're having cognitive issues a year, 2, 3, 4, even 5 years down the line, that is called Parkinson's disease dementia, but it comes under the same heading as dementia with Lewy bodies. It just can come later. Okay. But if there's no cognitive issues at all, then it wouldn't be Lewy body. I think, Christine, you're saying that the doctor was told that your father would live about 8 years. So I just want you to know, and I'm just speaking straight out here, nobody knows how long anybody's living. And I can tell you from, again, talking to hundreds and hundreds of people, I have talked to many caregivers who had loved ones who died in less than 2 years. And then my mom lived for 18 years. There's no norm to this disease. They do say the average. They used to say 4 to 7. They made it 4 to 8, and now they changed it to 20. And so it's a good guess. But I just want to say, my mom was on hospice 7 times. Again, not the norm, but I'm just trying to say how different everybody progresses depending on their age, depending on other physical ailments that they have, and just the care that they're getting, and just because we don't know why, basically. So let's see what else. They did a CAT scan. Okay, so Thomas, I'm not sure if you're asking a question, but you're just saying, I also want to say, since Thomas is mentioning this, that they are finding more and more during autopsies that many people who they thought had Alzheimer's don't have Alzheimer's or have another type of dementia, or they have Alzheimer's and Lewy body dementia. So there are a lot of people who have both. It's actually not unusual. And was there another one? Okay. Yeah, so I hear many times that doctors aren't sure. And again, it's because they're dealing with so many different illnesses and not sure because there's no definitive test. But I can tell you in general, if someone has mostly all the symptoms I'm mentioning and have a DAT scan and have a neuropsych test and all of that, and is particularly sensitive to medications, then yes. So some people more readily diagnosed and others are much more cautious. When can the skin test reveal the diagnosis? No, I have not heard that it's an early predictor, that you like to do it before any symptoms show up. I have not heard that at this time. I have been asked that question before. Am I missing one? Oh, yes, more. Yes, so a person can have both Alzheimer's and Lewy body for sure. Yes, and other people very rarely can have 3 types, but I don't want to speak on that. I don't have enough information on that because I'm not a researcher.
There's a question, is Lewy bodies hereditary?
Okay, I didn't see that one. It is thought not to be hereditary. I do hear it in some families, but that's not the norm.
There's another question about people who have been diagnosed with Lewy bodies having difficulty accessing memory care housing due to the probability of difficult and dangerous behaviors.
Yes. One of the most frequent calls we get on the helpline, because if someone was agitated or aggressive and then they need to find a facility for them, if it's written on whatever that number of the paper is, I forgot what that's called. Sometimes it's very difficult to get them in someplace. And I can tell you, because we get calls from all over the country, that many people will call because they're already in a memory care facility and they want them out because they were aggressive once. So it's difficult. And to me personally, it always sounds discriminatory because this person is dealing with a disease and what can we do? But I know that everybody is short-staffed and it's all difficult. So yes, that happens often. And there are companies that can help with placement. We can always give you those names too. It's a very difficult disease.
Any publications, research on what could cause Lewy body dementia?
No. Just like with the other dementias, they don't really know. There's a lot of hypotheses, like they've always been, and there's nothing at this moment that they know, to my knowledge. But I can tell you, again, after doing this for so many years, there's a lot more research being done now than there ever was. And more people are being diagnosed earlier than it took. My mother, it took 3.5 years, which is not unusual, but a lot of people are being diagnosed sooner now. Okay, someone is asking, is it better to be, do I think my experience is better to have home care instead of at an institution? So that is such a personal experience. I can tell you that there are some people who, number one, frankly, are not caregivers. This is a full-time job, and not everybody is cut out to do it. It takes your life. This is what you're dedicated to all the time. Even if you have people in your home, it's a personal choice. Do you want that or not? The positives of having someone in a memory care facility or such is that they're having activities and having interaction with other people. But there are some people who don't want interaction. And so there are pros and cons to what that is. From my experience, and I don't, not everybody calls the helpline, not everybody comes to support group. So I'm only talking about the ones that I talk to, and from my own personal experience, that having care at home, if you're able to, both mentally, emotionally, and financially able to, but there are ways from Medicaid, if that's appropriate, you'll always have one-on-one care versus the care that you would have in an institution, as we all know. What resources? Let me just look at the resources one. The resources, other than Caring Kind and mine, I have to tell you, other than a day center or the workshops that Caring Kind has are excellent, and support groups. We have support groups specifically for people with Lewy body and specifically for caregivers of people with Lewy body. And that's what I would recommend the most, because I find that that's the most helpful to everyone, to know that you're not alone, and that the things that you're experiencing when someone is having hallucinations and they're getting agitated, and then all of a sudden, then they snap back, and you feel all alone until you're in the group. And the same thing for people with Lewy body. They're in these groups from around the country, and they never met another person with Lewy body. So I think that very helpful. I just want to go back for 1 second. I think I missed one. With REM sleep disorder, have incredible battle dreams. Well, people with REM sleep disorder do have incredible dreams and can have really bad nightmares. Someone's asking about the late stages and how to help with that. Late stages are, for many, that people will stop walking because this disease has movement issues, mental issues, emotional issues. And so they'll usually can stop walking. But again, I want to say every person is different. Many times it can be from an infection like pneumonia, from having difficulty with swallowing. It's not really that you pass from Lewy body, but from circumstances surrounding that. Yes. Yes, Christine, you got a CNA for your father. Yes. Great. Newest medication. The newest medication for Alzheimer's, so I can just tell you, there is no medication out for, just like there's a newer medication for Alzheimer's, there is no specific medication solely for Lewy body at this time. Most people are given, well, as the first line of treatment, Aricept or Exelon many times, which is the same medication that you give to someone with Alzheimer's. But other things are given depending on behavioral issues, on sleep issues, etc. Okay, let's see. Any other questions on here?
You have a question on the bottom. Do hallucinations and delusions fluctuate over time?
Yes. Good question, Helen. They absolutely do. In the same way I was talking about my mom's runny nose that went on and then it stopped. A lot of symptoms, very oddly, come and they go. Others can stay, but delusions and hallucinations can absolutely fluctuate. Sometimes they happen early on and they disappear. For other people, they happen later on. And it really, again, depends on the person. In addition, since that question is being asked, in addition to hallucinations and delusions, there's something called Capgras syndrome. I'll just put that in there because about 25% of people with Lewy body experience that too. And what that is seeing a loved one as an imposter. So and so many times it's couples that have been married for 50 years, and it's really tough because the wife may look at the husband and say, and his name is Bill, what did you do with the good Bill? You're the bad one. And that type of thing happens. There's something else called reduplicative paramnesia, where people see two of everything. My mom was in her apartment and she said, how did they get this other apartment to look exactly as the other apartment with the same furniture? It's very common. See two cats, see two of everything. There's a lot of phenomena with this disease. It's really a difficult disease, but it's extremely interesting if you can look at it from that perspective. Tina, your husband is worried that taking too many meds will prolong his disease. Again, that some people, there are very few who hardly take any meds. Then there are some who take very few, and then I see people who have a very long list. In general, I wouldn't recommend being on so many medications, because unless you have to be, of course, for many other issues, but so many times they don't agree. So Tina, that's a hard one because it depends what kind of med it is. And all of this is such a personal choice. He's afraid to take any. Yeah, some people are. So if you can, depending what meds they are and what he needs the most help with. So again, talking about medications, you really have to weigh what the issue is, because for instance, there are some people who have really bad rigidity from the Parkinsonisms, and they can't move unless they're given medication for that, when others don't really need that. And others may get hallucinations from that same drug. So that's a difficulty. Anything else this minute? Okay.
I think I would, if you don't mind for one moment, I would like just to go back and answer the question about resources that Caring Kind can offer families. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
So out of the new programs that we have is for all related dementias. For those who are diagnosed early stage, cognitive stimulation therapy a group program, connectiveness, reduces depression, research, evidence-based, into programs of those diagnosed early for a theater, readers theater workshop, being able to tell your story, and people to hear what you have to say. There are, in the last go around, I believe there was one person with Lewy bodies in that group. These programs are being written into the hospital systems, to their residency programs. People are being diagnosed secondarily to a dementia diagnosis, maybe for a hip fracture or another issue going into the hospital. So physicians are not seeing people in early stage, and then we're seeing people who want to become advocates. So we do have a stakeholder engagement training for those who want to become a seat at the table, nothing about us without us. Also a Journey Together, which is a support group for those diagnosed. In addition, for those care partners partnering together, which is an educational workshop support group style with evidence base behind it. So those are just some of the, you asked about resources, and along with Norma, I mean, these are great resources for the person who is diagnosed and for their care partners from Caring Kind. So I would put Caring Kind's helpline into the chat as well. And you're certainly welcome to reach out to us anytime. I think you have a new one here. One more, I see.
Oh, okay, sorry. Didn't see that.
You see that one? My wife has trouble swallowing.
Yes. Yes, Thomas, that's the best way when someone has trouble swallowing or doesn't want to take medications, but you know that for a particular disease, it may be important. Using applesauce is the best way. Yes, glad you found that. And also, if someone has trouble swallowing, it's best to have water that's not room temperature, so they can feel either it a little cold or a little warm, and thicken the water. There's something called thicket that helps as well. Since Michelle mentioned the resources, I may as well say them now too, so I can put the helpline in there as well, because I want you to know that we are available specifically for Lewy body, not for any other dementia, which Caring Kind has in so many languages for people with Alzheimer's. We are specifically for Lewy body, and we are available by phone 365 days a year from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we have the support groups, as I mentioned before. We have a website with literally over 400 pages of information, not just about Lewy body, but caregiving in general. So if you need help with anything, on showering, on feeding, on veterans information, on day centers, that's all on the website, and I'll put that in there. And then also on the website, and referring you to Caring Kind for their wonderful financial information website, workshop, sorry, and all that they have. And we also have, I wanted to say, on the homepage of the website, so I'll put that in the chat, is a medical alert card, which is what I was referring to before. It's right on the homepage. If you scroll down a little, it's on the right. It says medical alert card. You can print that out because it mentions the medications that someone with Lewy body should not be given. It doesn't mention every single one, but it mentions a lot. And I think that particular piece of information, in addition to others, is important for you to know. And also, towards the top of the website on the right, there's a box in yellow. It says views from within. We have some videos, 10 different videos of 20 minutes or less on each different symptom, hallucinations, fluctuations, cognitive issues. And in each one of those, there are caregivers, people with Lewy body, and doctors speaking specifically on one particular symptom, so that you really get a good feel of what people are going through. And I think that helps people a lot when they're not sure what's going on and is this possibly happening, and you can see whether that helps you. So I'm just going to put, I don't know, I can't, this thing is stuck for some reason. I can't add anything in the chat for some reason. So it will not let me do it. Oh, now it's letting me. Okay, I think. No, it's this thing. It is not letting me. So the short version of the Lewy Body Resource Center, it's lbdny.org. And then you'll find the helpline on there. I'll mention it if you want to write it. I'm sorry that I'm not able to do it. It's 516-218-2026. Thank you, Gary. Okay. So I thought what I would do next, if it's okay with everyone, is just offer some suggestions on what to do for those who are dealing with this disease and how to handle everyday things that come up. Okay, Tina, yes, that's a very sensitive subject. Tina's mentioning that her husband says he doesn't want to live with this, and has mentioned suicide. For those who are in the Lewy body group, for people who have Lewy body, that comes up, and most every person, it seems, has thought of that. And it's the things I want to suggest the best for handling feelings and what they're going through. Don't make light of anything. And please know that whatever I'm saying, I'm not insinuating that anybody is doing any of this, but it's really, really important for them to feel safe. No matter what's going on, to have them feel safe. So if someone is seeing something scary and they think there's a man in the room when it's actually a lamp in the corner, possibly, instead of just saying that's just the lamp and making light of it, just really be sensitive to the fact that this is what that person is seeing. But a better example is, I just had someone call the other day who said her husband sees teenagers in the living room He doesn't want them there. They're bothering him. What should you do? Now, other people will say there's nobody here. There's nobody in the house. My suggestion is to never say that, even with Alzheimer's too, as we all know, someone with dementia, you don't want to argue with them because this is their reality. And arguing only frustrates them. So whatever you can do, just go along with it any way you can. If he's seeing teenagers in the room, then what you do is say, I'm telling them to leave right now. I'm going to go and ask them to leave, and you don't have to worry about it. I'm taking care of it. And that to me is the most important thing. So you'll get up, you'll go, even if you have to talk, open the door, and then come back and say everything's fine. In this way, he knows you're validating what he's thinking. He doesn't have to think of a solution, and you are taking care of it so he feels safe. So that's just one little example of always the safety factor, just to tell somebody that they are safe, that they don't have to worry about anything, that you are handling everything, and just know that you're loved. That would be Tina, that's to me the most important thing, because the love, the feelings do not dissipate. Someone may forget what they're thinking, what they're saying, but the feelings of love and concern and care is always there, always, with any of the dementias. And I also wanted to say it's always good to have a structure, to have a routine. It just works well. But also, don't say something too soon. If there's an event that you need to go to, or even a doctor's appointment next Thursday, and you have a week to go, do not tell them today, this Thursday, that you have one next Thursday. They will get stuck on that. They'll be focused on it and want to ask you, are we going yet? Are we going yet? So the best thing to do, tell them the day before, tell them the morning of. You know your loved one the best, what works. But that's another suggestion. Don't say things too far in advance. Also, if there's a family gathering, know that someone with Lewy body can get overstimulated and feel uncomfortable if there's too much going on. If you have 20 people in a room, it's too much for them. So you can be in this space, and that person will probably want to be in another room or in another space with just a few people where he feels safe and he can follow one conversation, even though he may not be able to respond. And another important part, is people with Lewy body also have a slow retrieval time, different than Alzheimer's, in that they know what they want to say. Cognitively, they're very sharp. The sense of humor does not disappear. But when they want to answer or think of a word, they cannot think of it. So sometimes you need to give them about 20 seconds to respond. Just give them time. We're so used to talking in 1 second, but they're not able to do that most of the time. And then many times, and this they always talk about as the biggest frustration, they cannot think of the word that they're trying to say. He may want to say pen, but he says paper. And it helps if you can try to put it together, and they just cannot get that word or cannot figure out how to do something. Somebody just recently told me they were in a restaurant and someone put a chicken in front of them with chopsticks. He was in a Korean restaurant. He said out loud, he said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And he couldn't figure out what to do, but he was so aware that he couldn't figure out what to do. So it can be very, very upsetting on every level. And so speak slowly, wait for a response. If you see someone's having trouble with something like the chicken, just say, would you like me to help you with that? And also, they want you to speak to them as they keep telling me and others, like they're a person who has an issue. Just speak to them. Speak to them and be kind like you would to anybody else. They do not like loud noises. So soothing music, maybe, but any loud noise is disrupting to them. Can also tell you they get bored very easily because they cannot do too much on many days. So whatever you can do to entice them with something they like. If it's someone who likes baseball, turn on baseball. If they like opera, do that. Whatever, just know the person, you know the person best. I'm going to look for more questions right now.
You have a question that here, are there stages in Lewy bodies like Alzheimer's?
Yes, so there are about 7 stages with Lewy body, the same more or less like Alzheimer's, and they follow suit. My suggestion is not to look at them. This is my personal feeling. The same way that I said people with Lewy body progress differently, each person. If you look at the stages and saying, oh, I think she's in the 4th, 5th stage now with the 6th, and this is coming next. It's putting you somewhere that nobody really knows of what to expect next. So for all the caregivers who are here, I want to suggest it's wonderful being proactive. I was always proactive. I encourage it. However, be proactive on the things that you see are needed now. Do not think too far in advance because, oh, he's in stage 4 and I better get ready for stage 6. No, you don't know if he's going to get to stage 6. You also don't know if he's going to get to stage 6 in 3 years or in 3 months. So it doesn't help because that brings on the anxiety. You just I want to suggest, like we always say, to try to be in the moment. Really try to be in the moment. But speaking on behalf of people who have Lewy body, sometimes they can't get out of the moment. As someone in my support group just said this week, and I'm keeping that in mind, they can get stuck on something, the way I was talking about before. So sometimes it's too much in the moment and try to change the subject if something is bothering them. Go to a different room, play music, show pictures, do something to try to alleviate their fear and keep them safe. But I also want to say, in addition to the safety factor, which is huge, they want to be in control just like every single one of us does. And so it's not, it's lunchtime. We have to eat now. It's 12 o'clock. You're not eating. Well, I'm not hungry. Let's not make stipulations on things that there could be a choice of, because our schedules as caregivers, they don't work according to our schedules. It really has to work according to them. And so I would always say to have someone have a choice. Oh, you're not hungry now. So you think we'll check in an hour. Do you think you might want to eat at 1 o'clock or whatever it is? If a choice of food, give the person a choice. I know sometimes that's difficult because things need to be done, but we all want choices and we don't want to be treated as children, and with respect all around. Your mom is obsessed with the calendar. Yes, that happens a lot. Do you have any suggestion with how to encourage focus to be on the immediate when someone wants to know what something is happening in the future? Well, I would talk about anything that your mom might like to do. So say she's I'm just going to pick, she likes going to a casino. I don't know where that came from, but my mom used to like that. She wants to go to a casino. And if that's something that you're able to do with her, then you can talk about that. You'll be doing that soon. If she wants to go to a park, see flowers, whatever it is, then you can plan something. If that's what you meant by future, talk about not appointments and things, but just say, no, we have that. Let's not even focus on that. I have everything taken care of for you. We don't have to think about that. Let's think about something fun. What would you like to do? Yes, you're talking about telling the person, the professional caregiver about Lewy body. Absolutely. I'm happy to do any other workshops. I try to train professional caregivers at agencies as well. Then why do they, if stages are so different from person to person, then why do they have them? I've been told there are stages and told there aren't. It's so confusing. Carol, I can tell you there are stages because the stages have been mentioned everywhere and they are valid stages so that people will start with having a executive function problem, and then they'll have Parkinson's symptoms. And so there definitely are stages, and there is an end stage as well. And if you want to look at those stages, they're online, and feel free to do if that's something you want to do. I was just making a suggestion on not to focus on it that, oh, this is coming next. You may be right, but you may not be, and it may be far off. That's what I was trying to say. Let's see. I know it's only just about an hour now. The thing I was talking about, treating with respect and honoring feelings, the things that I always like to close with, but we can take more questions, is to treat the person exactly as you would be treated, because they are very sensitive to energy. And so I think I see someone nodding his head who has Lewy body, very sensitive to energy. And whether it's their ability or their gift that they have to make up for what they're not able to do, they're very sensitive to it. If you are frustrated or angry, they're going to feel that even more than you would feel that. And it's just, and I'm just saying on behalf of caregivers, I'm not saying that you never get angry, frustrated, and you can't. It's very difficult. If you're repeating something and you get frustrated, my suggestion is go in another room, scream if you need to, walk out of the house, do what you have to, but not in front of the person who has the disease and is struggling on their own and the struggle. And call our helpline. Call for any help that you want. You can call us, you can call Caring Kind, just so that you're not taking it out on that person. But so the same way that you don't want to show that anger and frustration to them, when you do show love and kindness and caring, just like we all want, it goes a long, long way. It just goes an entirely long way. And to me, that's always the most important thing. The tagline of the Lewy Body Dementia Resource Center is bringing awareness, supporting with love. And that's what we're here for. And that's why it works so well with Caring Kind, because they work from the heart as well. And that's why it's always a pleasure. And let's see. Okay, taking more questions. Thank you, Jim. Should you help or let them do it themselves? If they are able to do something themselves, encourage it. Definitely encourage it, because they want to be useful and do what they're able to do. But if they need help, they need help. And depending on what it is. If somebody's able to do something, please have them do it. Just remember about that apathy and indifference factor, that maybe they're able to help you today, but they might not be able to do so in 2 days. What is your suggestion on how to handle an LBD person who persistently doesn't want to eat? Okay. Thomas, that's a hard one and a sensitive topic, because you can keep trying to feed someone. And I want to say, when you mentioned about losing weight, that it's not unusual for people who do eat to lose a lot of weight with Lewy body, because of the muscles and parts in the body. I'm not saying it in a scientific way, but it's your body's not working right, and they can lose weight even while eating. So yes, if someone refuses to open their mouth and not eat, Thomas, I would try as much as you can, because of course for us, that's the most important thing. And then if they don't want to eat, take that as a sign at this moment, and then try again and really pay attention to that. That's a difficult one. Carol, you're the one with the, okay. I don't know what question you were asking me for. Any other, trying to think of any other topics that I might not have covered. I know I said a lot because I can talk very quickly, and that was an hour. Yeah, I think I just want to reiterate about the burden on caregivers and the people living with this. And it's just really difficult because it's not just dementia. It's not just Parkinson's and movement. It's not just behavioral. It's all of them. And they fluctuate, every single part of it. And then there's so many other issues, like we know with people with Alzheimer's too, and Caring Kind helps with that, and people having to help going to the bathroom at night. There's just so many things, and it's really difficult for the person with the disease as well as the person caring. And I don't think I have much more to say unless there's a question. Thank you, Mira.
There's a question at the end here.
Yeah.
What about aggression?
Aggression is really difficult. And I want to suggest that many times you want to find out, is there a reason for that? An environmental reason first. Always try to figure that out. If there's something, before suggesting possible medication. Someone is angry because they're just not happy with their life, or something else happening around them. If there's not a family member to take them in, first of all, no one with Lewy body, number one, should not be driving at all anymore. And number two, they shouldn't be living alone. There are some people who are still living alone. It's my suggestion that they not be. And if you don't have a family member who can take someone in, to find a place that might be the right place for them. We can try to help you with that. Let's see. Otherwise, I think an hour, I think an hour of Lewy body information is always enough.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for me, for Norma? Thank you so much for being here. Norma, you did mention, thank you so kindly. We do have 3 different legal and financial webinars that are all free. One is on legal and financial. The other one is for New York State Medicaid home care. And the third one is actually a new one, which is the changes in the assessment process for Medicaid home care benefit. So you can certainly access any of these webinars. Our programs are free on our website. Anything that you could find helpful, we're here to help you, as I know Norma is. And thank you, Norma. That was really helpful. Very insightful information. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, I just put the helpline because I was able to write it now.
Good.
Okay. And
anybody else? Anybody?
No.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Michelle. And,
all right.
Okay, so just know, I'll write one more thing. For anybody who wants more information, besides calling the helpline, I just put my email address in case you wanted to ask any other questions. I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you again thank you, Norma,
Michelle.
So much. We'll
Thank
see
you,
you again
everyone.
soon. Thank
Okay.
you. All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.